I'm glad to have sat in court and watched it firsthand, the testimony, because what the media leaves out is not minor. It is not minor details. I want to put a really quick video together on something that I didn't think I'd be talking about, because I don't do celebrity anything. I don't care about celebrities. I care about like two celebrities, Lenny Kravitz and somebody else. At any rate, I cover politics, and I have over the years really enjoyed going to court, federal court, typically in Virginia and Washington, D.C., on political trials and political cases. And this is the first time I've ever stepped foot the other day in a celebrity related case, which was John Majors. I'm late to the party. There's a lot of people in the courtroom who've been watching this from the very beginning, and they're dissecting it in very granular detail, and I think a very comprehensive, fact-based way on YouTube. And I enjoy watching that. But the thing that jumps out at me is when you're in the courtroom and you see certain facts go by that you don't see reported in the media, or you do see them, but they're at the bottom of the story, or they're not in the story at all. So much of what makes the media problematic, particularly corporate media these days, is that they suppress certain information, ignore certain information that is inconvenient to the narrative that said media organization wants to put forward. And in the case of anything involving right now, domestic violence, the Me Too movement, anything like that, there is a certain narrative that certain media organizations lock into and will not come out of, no matter what the facts are. And so there was something that made me say to myself, I had to go to a place in downtown Manhattan the other day called Rivington Guitars. And it turned out that I never made it there because I went to court to watch John Majors and ended up staying in court for 2 hours, And so the two things and three things that I'll just mention here factually that jump out at me. One was that it was Jonathan Majors that made the call to the police that started this entire thing. So you would think, if you were looking just basically at headlines and just reading very briefly, that it was Miss Jabarri, his ex-girlfriend, that made the call. But what this is set off by is a text message that comes in from some other woman, trying to get with John Majors, apparently. And it turns into really a tussle in a car. Then you had the testimony of the driver, the only person who was present, saying that Majors wasn't doing anything and Miss Jabarri was doing everything. That was testified to in court. Then you had a video of Majors running down the street with Miss Jabarri running after him. Now, if I turn that around and that was a video of Majors running after Jabarri, I certainly would conclude that he was the aggressor. I mean, I have no problem concluding that. But this video, certain news organizations really tried to ignore that video, because that was really inconvenient for the narrative that I think some of these news organizations want to proffer. I don't know Jonathan Majors. I don't pay that particular attention to him. I know who he is, and that's about it. But I got to tell you that when you flip the characters in this story and ask yourself what you would be thinking if it was Majors doing some of the things that Jabarri is confirmed to be doing from video. I'm not talking about from opinion, from video. I just can't imagine why. It confuses me as to why this is in court. And the other thing that strikes me as odd is, and I'm saying this as a person who has a family court judge in my family on Long Island, and 3 law enforcement people in my family, and 2 based in New York, 1 in Virginia. My nephew was a cop in Virginia for 6 years. And, you hear war stories all your life when you grow up around a bunch of cops, And, I can understand some of the things that the cops, some of the decisions that they've made, but there's certain leaps of logic that don't make any sense. Why would a person, particularly a black male with a white girlfriend laying prone and half naked in his closet, call the police and not get nervous about that?
When Jabarri is found on the floor of the walk-in closet, Majors called cops when he couldn't get inside.
I banged on the door. I've been at the apartment for about 40 minutes now. I couldn't get in. I finally went downstairs and asked the doorman to help us. They let me in via the handyman.
Given the disposition and given the facts that we know about how black males in particular are treated by the police, which is factually documented over decades, there's no argument to be had on some of these things. And I just look at it and I think to myself, he called the cops effectively. So what the theory of the case is that he beat her up and then calls the cops on himself. That makes no sense. I actually think that what was relayed is that actually what happened, which is he was fearing that she was going to kill herself and got scared and called the ambulance. That's really what calls 911. That to me is very logical. And it's also very logical when you see what her disposition is. And then when you find out later that she spent 3 hours at Bellevue Hospital, and for those don't know it who may be outside of New York, Bellevue Hospital is known for their psychiatric care. They do other things, but they're particularly known for their psychiatric care. I'm glad to have sat in court and watched it firsthand, the testimony, because what the media leaves out is not minor. It is not minor details. And I did bring up the point the other night on Roland Martin that, I counted, I think it was 10, it was 9 one day I was in, the next day was 10 reporters, all white. I just think there's certain things they don't pick up on. And for whatever reason, they don't really care about, which is, I still say a black male calling the police with a white girlfriend upstairs, dazed and confused, is a risky proposition for most black males. It just is. And I don't know that white people totally appreciate what I'm saying. But we've seen incidents where the person calling for help ended up being seen as the perpetrator when the police got there. We've seen that many times. And so I just was kind of surprised by the fact that that was not reported a little bit more. And the thing I'll end with is saying that I think it was back in October, there was this sort of blip in the media. I've got friends that, even though I'm not paying that much granular attention really until right now to the situation, but I've got friends who are in crisis management and the media that sent me the part where there was the rumor that Miss Jabbari was going to be arrested for assault. Then we heard the rumor that the prosecutor's office decided that they were not going to prosecute in any way Miss Jabbari for assault. Then we get the testimony of a police detective, which I was in court for on Thursday. And that guy was riveted to, because I'm thinking, okay, he made contact with both Miss Jabbari and Major's representative and Major's later on. So this is going to be important testimony. I cannot wait to hear this. And it turns out that I would say probably 70% of what he was trying to relay was blocked. It was blocked by the prosecution and by the judge, who sustained almost every prosecution objection. I started counting the objections. They did not want that police detective talking about anything involving, they didn't want that jury hearing anything involving the alleged assault allegation on Miss Jabbari on Mr. Majors. They did not want court hearing that. And it wasn't just, the sustaining of the objections, and you can't talk about this and you can't ask that. And it was Seth Zuckerman, who was one of John Majors' attorneys. It was stricken from the record, some of the things that the detective said. So even if somebody came along 10 years from now and wanted to read this case, this stuff is stricken from the record. So I just feel like there's some bias that's sort of built in to some of these situations that I think some of the media members don't necessarily appreciate. And I bring up demographics because, let's be real, if I was sitting in a courtroom and I saw a white woman on trial or a black woman on trial or any woman on trial, and the entire jury was male except one person, or all the reporters in the room were male, I would bring that up. That is going to impact the way that case is filtered through that media organization in most cases, not in all cases, but in most cases. I mean, I think Associated Press has a very good reputation, for example, for relaying facts and getting out of the way. I like AP, because AP is like, this is what the facts were and that was it. But I can't deny the fact that there are several people on YouTube right now who are lay people, as it were, or citizen journalists, as it were, who are relaying facts that I think are accurate. And to what I saw, they are relaying things that mainstream media will not report, for whatever reason, will not report or suppress or have in the back of the story or whatever. And there's something to that. There's no doubt about it. I'm Lauren Burke. I've got some other. Merry Christmas. I would suggest New York during Christmas time to anybody, but I'll see you soon. I'll be on Roland Martin Unfiltered again on Thursday. I'm on Roland Martin Unfiltered every Thursday, and I have a feeling I'll be talking about John Majors again on Thursday. So we'll see what happens. Good luck.